Hello everyone and welcome to the Melbourne Traditionalists episode 15. I'm Mark Moncrief from the Melbourne Traditionalists and I have with me, as nearly always, David Hiscock from XYZ. How are you, David?
Very good, Mark. Thanks for having me. And Epstein didn't kill himself.
You know, I think it's becoming more and more obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Yes. It's really one of those things that you just look at, and the more you look at it, the less sense it makes.
Yeah, that's it. And those blonde ditzers on American television aren't as dumb as they look. but if people see the Project Veritas video, this lady on CNN, she's saying, look, we had all the information on that royal guy, Prince Andrew, and Bill Clinton, but they didn't put it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone's really shocked by that.
No.
I mean, that's the world we live in, isn't it?
Yes.
It is shocking, but we're not shocked by it.
No, yeah. Well, I keep saying it's the fact that this keeps going on as well. We're prattling on this show. if it wasn't for the fact that we've got an establishment that keeps these people in power and shields them, I'd just be playing piano for myself. Yeah.
I'm glad we've stopped you playing piano. Yeah. Oh, not because of you're not of the no, that's not what I meant. No.
I mean, it's fair call. I'm terrible. Clunk away.
Now, today I wanted to talk about unemployment in Australia.
Yes.
It's something I've talked a lot about on my blog.
Mm-hmm.
I've written a lot about it. And it's one of those recurring mysteries. We have 712,000 people unemployed as of last month in Australia. And we have 12 million people employed.
Mm-hmm.
In June, the government created 500 permanent jobs.
500.
Oh,
that'll,
Yeah,
it's
so
a good start.
the problem's being solved.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you say 700,000 unemployed?
Yep, 700,000.
500 new jobs?
Yep.
In 1 month?
Yes, in 1 month.
Okay, so that's 1,000 in 2 months. So then, 70.
So 712 months. Well, what's half of 712? 360.
Right, so 360...
68?
8 months.
Yep, 66 months.
366 months. 366 divided by 12. It's... What is it? About...
We actually have calculators
Hey,
on
let's
our
get a
phones.
calculator.
Why don't we just do that? Hey?
Oh my god.
Yeah, instead of showing everyone how incompetent we are.
Yeah, this is hilarious.
So 356.
That's how many years it'll take?
That's how many months.
Oh, months.
So it's only 30 years.
Okay, so
in 30 years, we'll get rid of unemployment.
Okay.
As long as nothing changes in that 30-year time.
Oh, right. So as long as, say, for example, we don't bring in a couple of 100,000 people in every year, because that would kind of just push that a little further down the road each year, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it's...
My maths isn't great, as you can see, but just common sense tells me, okay, well, if you keep adding 200,000 to that each year.
So what was that phrase you used? Common
sense.
I'm not familiar with that. Could you tell us what that is?
It means that you're racist.
Right.
Yes, but
I've always wondered what racist meant.
Yes. I'm familiar with the mathematical concept of the asymptote, where the closer you get to your destination, your progress towards it halves, and so you never actually meet that. Another way of never actually meeting the target is if you just keep adding, if you just keep moving those goalposts further and further down the line, so you never actually catch up with it.
Yes. Yeah. So we have apparently 160,000, although practically no one believes that. 160,000 immigrants in a year.
Net immigration is well over 200,000.
Yeah. And we have, on top of that, 700,000 unemployed.
Yes.
And we first reached, since the post-war period, since the Depression, We first reached 100,000 unemployed in 1974,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact we reached 190,000 in that year.
Mm-hmm.
And since then we've never gone under 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1989 we had a big recession, which
Mhm.
actually lasted for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got close to 1 million unemployed. We didn't quite hit 1 million, but we're pretty close.
Right.
And then in the Howard years, 2004, we got down to 400,000 unemployed. So since 1989, we've never gone under 400,000 unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can probably double, maybe even triple that number of people who are underemployed,
Yes.
because a full-time job is considered to be 30 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you work for 30 hours a week, then you're counted as full-time.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who are working 4 days a week would not consider themselves full-time.
I know people who work 4 days a week, and they definitely want another day.
Exactly, they want more.
I think they appreciate the 3-day long weekend, but they
Yeah,
want
and
another day.
it has its downside as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And particularly in the long term,
Mm.
week to week you can get by, but when you want to go on holidays or you want to, start saving for a house or
You
something,
don't.
you don't. You can't. That extra bit just can't be done.
Mm.
So we can. I think we can reasonably double that number. So that's 1.4 million.
Mm.
So that's more than 2 million Australians who are either unemployed or underemployed
Mm-hmm.
out of 13 million who should be employed.
I found the breakdown of statistics on Upon Hope. You did a little breakdown by age as well. That was quite interesting.
That's right. I actually found that surprisingly on Sunrise. I saw
occasionally the truth shines through. Yeah?
Occasionally the truth shines through. They actually had a very good segment where they interviewed a guy who was concerned with older unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the great myths that we have, and it's been around for decades, is that unemployment is a problem for young people.
Yep.
And that as you get older, you get more mature, you get more determined, you get more work. Right? But what's actually happened is that has not happened. Now, one thing that keeps youth unemployment down is university.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the government pushes university so hard, even though university doesn't actually improve most people's lives, which is what people are told.
Well, yes, it
does.
took me several years to deprogram from university.
Yeah. In fact, and university is a bad thing, I think. And to be honest, I'm not even convinced that the institution should exist at all.
Yes. Well, I've actually openly advocated for a fleet of helicopters to basically, one by one, just level every single university in Australia. First of all, with tactical nuclear weapons, and then afterwards just drop salt on the ground as well, just to be sure.
So remember, ladies and gentlemen, vote 1 David Hiscock.
Yeah,
because I am.
Yeah,
that's great policy.
Yeah. I'm still trying to decide whether to do it at night or during the day. We'll see. I think I'll prefer to do it during the day, because at night, you've got all the support staff cleaning the place up. They don't deserve it. They're just trying to earn an honest living. So
exactly.
They might have to be during the day.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about the numbers. So they actually provided numbers on this Sunrise program. They put it up while they were speaking, and I copied it down. So between 21 and 24, we've got about 60,000 unemployed. So this is current. This is within the last month. Between 25 and 34 is 150,000. Between 35 and 44, 160,000. Between 45 and 54, which is where I am, there's 168,000. And then 55 to 64, 173,000. So each 10-year age bracket goes up. There's more unemployed at 60 than there are at 50, than there are at 40, than there are at 30.
And it's interesting that there's a massive difference between the 21 to 24 age group, 62,000, and then 25 to 34, 149,000. But then after that, it's a steady increase, by about 10,000 a year. about 10,000 every bracket.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that hiding of the unemployment of the 21s to 24s. That's what you're talking about there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what they also provided was the time on New Start, so the time on unemployment benefits. So between 25 and 30, the average person is unemployed for 104 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Between 30 and 40, 132 weeks. Between 40 and 50, 170 weeks. And between 50 and 60, 188 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a long time
to
be unemployed.
It's over 3 years.
Yeah.
For when you're getting older. So obviously what we need to do is bring in more immigrants to this country, because what we understand about immigration is that when immigrants come to a Western country with strong institutions and a free market and just the rule of law, that they thrive, and that people like us who've lived here all our lives, we don't really appreciate what we have here. But people from other countries where they've grown up poor and they hit the West and they run. They make the most of all their opportunities. They start up new businesses. They actually boost the economy. And without bringing in these people with sort of different ways of looking at the world, sort of a diverse range of views, of diverse backgrounds, Australia will not survive.
Well, that's certainly the government's view, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether the government is Liberal or Labor. But, of course, we have the problem that if immigration creates jobs, how do we have mass unemployment and mass immigration?
Yeah. The NPC part of my brain is struggling there.
Yeah. It's a real problem. And, the opposition party, if it was a real opposition, would raise this issue.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, they don't, because they agree with it.
Yes.
And the newspapers and the media, they actually concentrate, they occasionally break through with a story like this, like the Sunrise story, like the 500 new jobs. I read that in the Herald Sun. So there are these little gaps that you see, but overall they support the narrative. They support the idea that, hey, this is great.
500 new jobs. It's like sending 10,000 men over the top to gain 100 meters.
And you've heard recently about how the Morrison government has said that there aren't enough skilled workers in the country, so they're going to send more migrants to rural areas.
Yes.
So since they said that, so that's about 3 months, the numbers have gone up from about 500 to about 700.
Oh, we're saved.
So when you read the headlines, you really need to read further.
It is one of the lies, because they talk about the fact that we have a skills shortage.
Yes.
But as you were saying before, how can there be a skills shortage when there are 700,000 people unemployed? Surely amongst that 700,000 there must be people with some pretty good skills.
You would really think so, wouldn't you?
And then if we have a skills shortage, and I thought governments talked about this all the time. They talk about targeted immigration, about bringing in people with the best skills.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't seem to be what our immigration program is focused on. Like when we're bringing in a couple of 100,000 people every year, we're not bringing in a couple of 100,000 engineers and brain surgeons and doctors.
Well, this is the bizarre thing. Even if exclusively we were bringing in engineers and brain surgeons, it implies that we are unable to produce our own engineers and brain surgeons.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. Out of that 700,000 people unemployed, you get some smart people in there.
Yes. Yeah. Just recently, again in the past month, I saw a fundraiser for a guy who'd lost his job. He's in his mid-50s. Mm-hmm. He's a scientist.
Yeah. What did he do? Did he question feminist orthodoxy?
Well, actually, it just seems like it was, they needed to make some cuts and he was...
They got rid of the old guy, huh?
Yeah, they got rid of the old white guy.
They needed to make some cuts. I thought they had a skills shortage.
Mate, I can't make sense of it either. I'm not that smart of it seems.
Yeah. Well, we needed a calculator to figure out how 500 goes into 700,000. So
They'd forgotten about that. Why did you have to remind them? So, we've got this chronic problem of unemployment. It's not going away. It's not being addressed. And in fact, I was just the other night, I watched The Dismissal, which is a mini-series from the early 1980s about Scott Whitlam being sacked in 1975. It's actually a pretty good series. And they're talking about full employment.
Yes.
Now, there was a time when everyone in Australia talked about full employment. That was the goal. And then the last political party to actually talk about it was the Liberal Party in 1992.
Really?
Now, Dr. Hewson
yes.
was the opposition leader, and he had a program called Fight Back.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, which was a complete disaster.
Yes, I remember that too.
But one thing that he actually proposed was a policy of full employment.
Yeah, right.
And since then, no political party has actually endorsed a policy of full employment.
Maybe because they saw what happened to John Hewson.
Well, I think that they'd seen what had happened in the 20 years before that, that no government had been able to get rid of mass unemployment.
Yeah. But
of course, they continue with 3 policies, all of which contribute to mass unemployment.
Yep, which are?
The first is mass immigration, so a constant increase of people and competition for jobs. The second is feminism and more women entering the workforce.
Yep.
So you can go to an office now and you will see everyone there is a female.
Yes.
But when I was born, you would have gone to an office, and not every office, but you would have seen offices where everyone was a man.
Yes.
And now it's the complete opposite. And we're not allowed to talk about it.
Yes.
We're not allowed to say, hey, women have contributed to this massive social and economic problem.
Well, let's talk about that. Tangenting back just for one moment.
Let me just mention the third before I forget.
Yeah, sure.
And the third policy is globalisation.
Yes.
And globalisation means that we're competing with people in China and here. Because before we had a closed system where only Australians could apply for Australian jobs. But now we have an open system where Chinese people can apply for Australian jobs, and some of those Chinese people live in China and some of them live in Australia. But they can compete with us directly for our own jobs. I said 3 policies, I'll mention a fourth.
Oh, yes.
Diversity.
Yes. Oh.
Where, we need more women. We need more ethnic diversity. Well, who gets screwed over? Everyone who's not a woman, which means men, and everyone who's not an ethnically diverse, which means white people.
Yes. Yes.
So, we've got those 4 policies that are driving up mass unemployment. Now let's go back to feminism.
Just one step back. Just one more comment then on the immigration.
Yeah.
So the point that we're basically making is we've had this argument for years that immigration boosts the economy and boosts jobs.
Yep.
But we've had several decades of mass immigration, yet we have had several decades of mass unemployment. So surely that argument has to come into question.
Well, on the figures, their argument is correct. The more people you have, the more GDP you're going to have.
Yes.
The more economic activity you're going to have.
Yes.
All right? And
but
the more people you have, the more jobs are created. The problem is who gets those jobs?
The new people who come in.
The new people who come in are the ones who get those jobs.
Yes.
Not the people who are here.
Yes.
So it comes at their expense.
That's right. They're selling it as a benefit for us, but it's simply a benefit for the people coming in and for the government who get the benefit of those people
and for business.
Yes.
Yes. Business of course make a profit on it.
Yes.
And quite disgustingly, so do charities.
Yes. So yeah, the point here is stop both the government and fake conservatives who make this argument stop stop insulting our intelligence by telling us that immigration is a benefit for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it did create jobs, there would be a precise formula.
Yes.
What is the precise formula? How many immigrants create a job?
Yeah. For the people
and
who
who gets that
here.
job?
Yeah. So on the feminism aspect, frankly, I am sick of working in female-dominated environments. It's
quite hard.
Yeah. I've actually sought out male-dominated environments.
Yep.
And exclusively male environments. Yep. Just because I'm sick of caring about people's feelings. you got to work with blokes, and it's great. You hang a bit of crap on each other. There might be an occasional issue, but you deal with it very, very quickly. You go, okay, yep, cool, done, and then you get on with just getting your work done. Mm-hmm. Women are they are more emotional, and it takes a lot of just concentration to maintain your frame and remember, okay, like they're coming at this from an emotional point of view, and it's like when you're working with guys, like you go, okay, this is what we do, this is how we get it, let's do it. You work with girls, it's like, okay, this is what we do, right, let's keep talking about it for another 10 minutes. It's just, so for starters, it just slows everything down.
Yes.
And secondly, like you've got women who should be just focusing on a family. Part of it now is like,
absolutely.
Now that we've created this system where we do have females working, we've got a system now where, like, because you've got two incomes in a family, it's one of the reasons why the price of housing has gone up, because we can afford we can afford these extra.
That's right. It's a self-imposed trap.
Yes, and so they're in this trap now.
Yeah.
But it's not what they're made for. And women get sick on a regular basis. They get sicker than us, guys. They they just bring in their problems. Frankly, it's I think back to what it must have been like, where like the guys just go to work, get the job done. Yeah, you deal with a bit of rubbish at work. You come home. How amazing would it be to come home and not have to also worry about cooking a meal and doing an equal amount of cleaning as your wife has, because like they clean. Like I go home and I clean, and I'm like, right, it's clean. And it's like, if there's a girl there, no, it's not clean enough, and there's more cleaning to do. I'm like, what? How good would it be just to go home? It's so beautiful to come home and have a meal already made for you.
Yep.
And to not have to worry about the cleaning and all the other sort of stuff. And then you just chill for a bit, and then you go to work the next day. And while you're chilling, you've got family which you can spend time with, or you can ignore, whatever. We had a paradise and we destroyed it. That's the point.
Well, it was destroyed on purpose.
Yeah.
Not by us, but by those who think they are our betters.
Yeah.
And they have an agenda, and they are going to make that happen, whether we like it or not. And that is the case with mass immigration, and it seems with unemployment. You were talking about women in the workplace, and when I was growing up, there was this idea that I heard older men say, women ruin everything. And I thought, that's a bit harsh. But now that I'm middle-aged, I'm like, it's true. Because the problem isn't women. The problem is that they're in a place where they shouldn't be.
Yeah. And,
there's a place for women, and there's a place for men, and there's a place for men and women.
Yeah.
And now we've decided that, no, everything has to be together. Everything has to be the same. And it's just... it's maddening.
Yeah, and
unnatural.
Yes, and this is where it's my dilemma now, because I'm working to make money, and I'd love to be able to sort of leave the city, go somewhere else where I don't have to be surrounded by congestion and diversity. And so I'm working to work towards that goal. And I'm working in a place where I'm teaching young women, and they're all working towards going to university.
Yeah.
And I want to scream at them, you're wasting your life.
Absolutely.
But I want to make money.
Yeah. And there's the trap that practically everyone's in, that you have to go along with the evil just to survive.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Yeah.
This diversity policies, how lovely are they, huh?
Exactly right. And everyone who talks about diversity talks about how, it's all about anti-discrimination, but there's no such thing as anti-discrimination. You can't anti-discriminate somebody.
Well, yeah.
You can only discriminate, and you can discriminate in favour, or you can discriminate against.
Yes. Every time
but you can't anti-discriminate.
Every time you go to the supermarket and you pick between one box of eggs and another box of eggs, you're discriminating.
That's exactly right. That's what discrimination means, to make a choice.
Yeah.
And in the past, and this is very surprising to most people, discrimination was a positive word.
Yes.
Discrimination meant that you were actually intelligent, that you could actually choose. You were intelligent enough to tell the difference between good and bad.
Well, now sometimes when they're being a little more honest than usual, they actually refer to the expression positive discrimination.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, affirmative action means less white people.
And that's exactly right. That's what diversity means. Diversity means less white men.
Yes.
Because it's not just white people.
Yes.
Because at the moment they say, well, women are acceptable. But I think we're coming to a point where even that will not be acceptable.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're finding out who is higher placed on the diversity card deck over in Europe, where you have the refugees being given very light sentences or being let off because when they rape women or children, like, it's dismissed as sort of a cultural misunderstanding.
Well, we had a case in Australia just this week, last week, where a foreigner was released on bail after being charged with rape because he couldn't speak English.
Yeah. Oh, well, obviously, if you can't speak English, then you can't. If you can't speak English, then all these education programs we have for men telling them not to rape won't work. We have to be told that it's a bad thing.
Exactly.
In English.
We have to be told exactly right. Well, we're at time.
Okay.
Tell me tell the listeners where they can find out more about you.
Okay, so come straight to our website, xyz.net.au. If you want to follow us on social media, come to Gab. Also, we've started up a Telegram channel. People seem to be going over to Telegram, so we're following the audience there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And I'm Mark Moncrief, and you can find more of my thinking at Upon Hope. Just type that into your favourite search engine, and you'll be able to find me. Thank you, David.
You're very welcome. Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
And have a good day, everyone.